Hey, what's up, Speedtards? Welcome to episode 22 of Futurism Forever podcast. Tonight is our Picabia special featuring special guest James from Cabaret Voltaire, and I'm also joined by Wayne. So, what's up, guys? How's it going?
Not much.
Okay, so I guess like James has been on the show before, but I'm gonna like introduce him to the audience and let him show his channel a bit. It is criminally underviewed. I like his channel a lot. It's probably my favorite channel um, going right now, aside from Futurism Forever. So he's like our little brother channel or something. What we are for Futurism, he is for Dada. So James, do you want to introduce yourself and Cabaret Voltaire, the kind of content you do to the FF audience?
Oh yeah, I run a YouTube channel called Cabaret Voltaire where I do like poetry readings and data texts.
Yeah. What is it you like about Dada? Do you
Just
want to
the
like
it's just basically the absurdism of it.
the absurdity, the humor? Like I do think there is
Uh,
a lot of humor
yeah,
at play.
it,
It's kind
it
of like
has
a biting, cynical humor, but it is like humorous nonetheless, and I think
it,
it's supposed to be so.
it has a trollish nature to it.
Yeah, well, they were trolls. Picabia especially, like once he gets into like his Dada phase, he's like dissing people and critics all the time in his writings, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in some of the readings. So like the plan tonight is to just read some of Picabia's texts or some of his poems and poetry and talk about them. So like it's not meant to be like an exhaustive biography of Picabia and all that. Kind of just an intro to like introduce our audience to Francis Picabia, who is one of my personal favorite painters easily, and as I recently learned, a pretty great poet too. So the emphasis tonight is on the poetry. I did make that intro that I'll play before we start talking. That you'll see some of his art in there and get a feel for what his artwork was like. But yeah, the emphasis of the episode will be the poetry. So without further ado, I guess we'll read the first poem. Yeah, I'm gonna read off my phone. It's just easier to control. Give me a sec here. All right, so first poem, Scarlet Runners by Francis Picabia. I hear bells in an empty room. I am a child who refreshes men, but I never weep. I am a man. The sun is always there, on the nape of my neck. He also sways in my arms. He also gives me fiery kisses. His limbs are plump. His penis went around my neck. His hair is down. His boots shine like gold. The sun always sleeps with me until the next day. He was quite little, but he is still growing. So look, the birds eat his nose. I dream of sleeping with the sun. He is level with the ground. He has but one eye in a neighboring pond. When the swans swim like big flowers and cast shadows on his evening dress, I will be his wife. Um, okay, so it's funny that's the first one, and I decided to read it. This was one of James' picks. It's a very homoerotic poem. So, um, James, why did you pick Scarlet Runners as like one of the poems
Because
we
it's
would read?
because it's gay, dude.
It's just
Yes,
because it's gay.
that's the only reason. Francis
Yeah,
Picabia was not gay. Like he was,
yeah. You had like a couple relationships and shit.
yeah, he ran through women like nothing. So, why do you think he wrote this homoerotic poem?
I have like no idea why someone like the kid would write this, to be honest.
Just to troll the
It's
critics?
unique. It's unique imagery.
Yeah, I don't think it was the best one to start with, but probably a lot of people are gonna stop watching right when I say penis. But um, I don't know. Any thoughts on the poem? Like looking over it again.
He's wearing it like a scarf.
Yeah, the sun always sleeps with me until the next day. The sun is like Man, do you think like what do you guys think about the symbolism of the sun in this poem? The sun is always there on the nape of my neck. He always also sways in my arms. He gives me fiery kisses. His limbs are plump. His penis went around my neck. His hair is down. His boots shine like gold. The sun always sleeps with me until the next day. So like the sun is like a central theme of this poem.
Hmm. I didn't notice that before, but it is.
Yeah, he goes on. I dream of sleeping with the sun. He is level with the
Mhm.
ground. He has but one eye in a neighboring pond where the swans swim like big flowers and cast shadows on his evening dress. I will be his wife. So Picabia is the like woman in this relationship with the sun.
Mhm.
Um, kind
I
of like
do.
a almost a pagan sun worship or something going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Okay,
The sun brings light. It brings wisdom.
Just want me to read
yeah,
Medusa?
Yeah.
yeah, you can read Medusa if we want to move on to the next one.
Sure. Um, Sinister right, Dexter left, superior hypocrisy, spirits without light in Don Quixote's, art starboard, red and green port, without vessel. Why change men into animal fetuses? My tongue becomes a road of snow. Circles are formed around me in bathrobe, exterior events, Napoleon, modern ideas, profound artists reunited in canon, who deceive artists of speech, who only have one hole for mouth and anus. I am the lover of the world. I am the lover of unknown persons. I am looking for a song.
Okay, I like this poem a lot, actually. This is actually the first poem in the collection I Am a Beautiful Monster, which is like the big collection of his poems. It's like the big go-to book for like to read Picabia's poetry. I like the opening line: "Sinister right, Dexter left, superior hypocrisy, spirits without light, and Don Quixote's." I kind of see it as like a rejection of. I don't know if it's meant to be political, but that's like how I interpret it of like the sinister right and the Dexter left, superior hypocrisy, basically saying they're both full of shit.
Mhm.
Spirits Without Light and Don Quixote's. Like Don Quixote was the famous character by Miguel de what was his fucking name? Miguel de Cervantes. He was kind of like a crazy wild man or whatever who
Mhm.
was fighting with windmills and such. So like yeah, modern politics they don't have any figures like that
Mhm.
anymore. Like there's no Don Quixotes, no wild men. Um, like it's a recurring theme about how boring life and reality is, and like the Dada answer to this was to, I guess, like reject society and like morality and all that, and just poke fun at all of people's stupid hangups and shit. Like James said at the beginning, like there was like a trollish aspect to the Dada movement. They were definitely poking fun at prevailing trends of their day. Um,
Just the word
yeah,
itself is kind of a troll.
mm-hmm,
Dada.
yeah, and yeah, the poem itself.
Uh, I do think it's interesting that it does mention the sun again in this poem.
Yeah, at the
Yeah.
end. I think we should have started with this one and read um, the first one second, but it would have like bled together a little better. But
Mhm.
yeah, this one ends with "I am lover of the world, the lover of unknown persons. I am looking for a son." Um,
Mhm.
yeah, so
Us, and that's kind of a play on words too. A
yeah,
son, an O instead of a U.
yeah. Um, I would think like the sun would be more of like the feminine figure because it's like the bringer of life and light
Mhm.
and all that. It doesn't seem like a masculine character, but Picabia says he wants to be the wife of the sun. So
Mhm.
I'm sure
Well,
there's
the
something
sun
being
is
said there.
typically associated with more masculine, and the lunar with more feminine.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
typically that's how
Okay.
you would symbolize it.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I see what you mean. I've never really thought about it too much, but yeah. I guess like I would bring up like with the opening line, um, the sinister right, the dexter left, superior hypocrisy, spirits without light, and Don Quixote's arch starboard, red and green port, without vessel, why change men into animal fetuses? So like for intellectual influences on Picabia, in I Am a Beautiful Monster, apparently he wasn't actually like an avid reader or anything. He
No.
was really into like Friedrich Nietzsche and Max Stirner. So like he was kind of like an egoist, and that did like inform his poetry and his artwork, and like it's present throughout. There are countless examples throughout
Yeah,
his
he
poetry.
did quote Nietzsche a lot in his works too.
Yeah, more so than Stirner, I would say, but Stirner's still there. He comes up pretty regularly. Oscar Wilde too at
Mhm.
times. But yeah, um, he was kind of in the tradition of those kinds of guys. Um, and like a 20th century descendant of them. Um, as we know from the Bonneau Gang series, Stirner and Nietzsche both were kind of popular at this stage. These are both examples of his earlier poetry and his like earlier writings. Um, and yeah, no, Nietzsche and Stirner both were kind of like trendy at this time and were like gaining popularity. They were kind of obscure in their own times, but yeah, early 20th century, they kind of experienced a resurgence amongst anarchists, also among um, artistic types. I think egoism is like inherently present in Dadaism. Do either of you guys want to speak on that a little bit and like how the influence can be sensed in Picabia's work, like whether it be the poems we've
Mhm.
read so far or his artwork or anything that comes to mind, really. Um, the like ideological foundations. A lot of them, like James, do you want to talk about like the difference between German Dadaists and Parisian Dadaists?
Well,
It's
yeah, the,
like
well,
they're
the German Dadaist were more like political oriented, and the Parisian Dadaists want to keep it more towards art.
yeah. So like because I'm less familiar with the German Dadaists. We covered Tristan Zara on the podcast before, but I've never read Hulsenbeck or Hugo Ball or those kind of guys. Like, is that where the communism comes in? Because I often hear Dada described as like an inherently communist or Jewish
Yeah,
movement. Like
a lot of the German Dadaists
anti-Semites
were
and
like,
stuff will bring that up. But
yeah,
go ahead. Sorry.
a lot of them were like socialists and communists. Except Hugo Ball. Hugo Ball was an economist though.
What was he
He was more like more basically like an anarchist type.
based? He made the smarter choice. I do need to read some Hugo Ball. Anything you'd recommend by him?
Would be The Flight Out of Time, which was his like excerpts from his diary.
Okay.
Mm.
Was he a poet or more of a painter?
So he was a
Or did he
poet.
do both?
He was a poet. He was a sound. He did sound poetry.
Okay. That's probably why I'm less familiar. Like I spend more time on like visual arts than reading poetry, which I've been doing more of lately. I don't know if I'm the best at like interpreting poems and stuff. Like I know what I like instinctively and things that don't really resonate with me, but I'm trying here. Yeah. Any further thoughts on Nietzsche or Stirner or Dadaism or the two poems we've read so far? If not, I'm going to
Not
read something
really.
long. All right. I'm going to read something longer form then. It's also from the early period. I don't know if I'm going to read both chapters, but I'm definitely going to read the first one. Um, Just trying to find it here.
Is this platonic
Um,
philosophy?
yeah, Platonic False Teeth. It's on page 111. I'm probably just going to read the first chapter, but all right, I got it here. So this was dedicated to the memory of Guillaume Apollinaire, who had recently died. He was like a famous cubist. I thought I'd just throw that out there before I start reading. But first chapter, Foul Brood. The regime of the photographic radiant screens wind rests every day in the effluvia of the sublime family of great vices, when the pyre laughs at the pirate world. Blushing gets pretty dangerous if a paralyzed king lacks a queen, and Jesus Christ, crazed with the sorrows of a society, violated in public hereditary silence, operates early in the intrigues of the seraglio, visor of heaven's administration. Captivated by the painting depicting the ruination of those taken in by beauty, the fondest moments in friendship, to my own eyes, are those of the old man susceptible to the insipid passions of the inventions of ugly things, against the hatless and shoeless English gods, renowned and narrow-minded gods, more generous than a feudal science in the old man's case. The spirit is nothing but a skilled hand in a little vase. Now the irreconcilables of the insult must spend a night in the cloisters of the desert, so that they can burn the reasonable and victorious child's physical clock. What is man? The sidewalk of Achilles' professor of chance, discovered in the jealous basin, to a certain mixed body. The particular discharges change with the speed of conjugal love's pagan light. I much prefer those nuns who spank each other with their rosaries to the moral doctrine of Jesus, who laughs at state education. For the priest loves women in snowballs in order to experience Timoleon's flesh. In a land beyond boredom where the heart languishes in the streets of a sick man's heaven, among harmful sins that change discipline into a dressed woman, philosophers, artists, scholars are all witty, which proves nothing. The interest of their vanity, socialite, speaks highly of the job for humanity, which we call good company. Therefore, talent lays open a claim to virtue, a mistress taken in by unhappy love. Insane are the animal men of the cities, whose wise man listens to the sewer. He even drinks from it, the work of his contemporaries at the Institute. Second-rate spoils of famous men of the year's spirit. What's more, one can only escape from the insipidness of stupidity through suicide. Genius has a luminous spine. The great man is the grandson of genius, a toy, an occupation in the world prison. Sorrow prisoner. The public is always itself among the passions. Imitate me in the bad behavior of the sky's children, if you want to make your fortune in the spirit's haphazard way. You need spectacles everywhere, with 86,000 worshippers of happiness. Captain, colonel, or general. Ideas with one sense when we have five. The homeland can actually make power happy. It's the sunset way of adding to my misfortune. Cruel perplexity of eyebrows, jolt aggravated by the low position of the powder box under the French hospital's extraordinary sun. All evening, restaurants and operetta shivers progressively in a quarter of an hour off average height. It is impossible for me to understand a word you're writing. Francis Picabia in shirt sleeves. In that case, a short speech. When for the first time the peace-loving habitue of musty medicines fell asleep on the floor above, the assistant pharmacist's organs in multicolored sonnets, the lamps displaying the pleasure of the flesh at 99 volts, for the initiation of initiated virgins, the chaste ribs of tubed substances, the stills of spoiled drinks obstructed the void of malleable brass wire, where diplomatic economists wallow in the rotary portliness of gloomy stories. What somber mind hung the champagne of communal address over the bathroom bucket, whose only purpose is to drown the hope of the newborn? The pointless effort vanishes for or against the networks of matter, despite the adhesive coating that hermetically seals the minister's instrument and spreads light as per the usurper's order. But it's a question of repopulating the world. Don't think that the fetus is dead. The sun knew the sweet satin before the panting of bibendum artificial breasts. The amorphous fossil and the convex mazes slowly tarnish as the measurement of reaction, and one's intention to surprise crumble into dust. For there are two dead weights, the sock and the genius, the epidermis of the fancy dress balls that consume them. Contrary to the scales of narrow-minded microbes, discovers a new horizon where every step leads an incandescent center into the ventilator hurricane. If, however, the flight of rubber wheels troubles either of the two bodies, we need not marvel that one is forced to grovel, to turn one's pockets inside out, to search in secret cavities, while the transparence of dangerous passages, unendowed with the slightest bit of reason, will cease to exist. The itinerary intended to make one see distinctly which of the two wheels is higher than the other is transformed into a thief of slick flags, or into a thick source of prostitution. He who has something to do with Jaws signifies the maximum as an ill-mannered man. The odor rises up in brief sections, and one feels compassion for the lot of those who stay at home to seek an escape from time before it is put in order and susceptible to change. We do not assume the title of emperor, nor the great estate that matter can reach. Lavish and funerary bad grace is subject to blows of the head. It is enough to know that he who gathers crumbs together to turn them into a page has the power of the exemplary armchair. Bravo, bravo, bravo. A haze of women in low-cut dresses crushes my throat. My skin rolls up, family snug gusts, in a great prostitution of malaria gazelle. My arc pants obstinately like a bracelet of sorrow in a Monacan cemetery. I still don't understand you. How happy I am with my back to the sun and the harem. The clouds blend in the water and give me a mastic pond's oriental shivers. The atmosphere of tramways sparkles over shirt-wearing asses and reigns over the high summit of a loving waist's caresses. Woman flowers have rubber sponge eyes and play four-handed games with a young man's bar of soap in the middle of my baker's shop, stomach as unexploited as Joan of Arc's thighs. What luck lips hermetically, towel rails on a display of seduction like the rictus of a soft collar, like an ostrich's love for a beloved palm tree. A young girl in the nuance of the past laughs at the charlatan paradise that favors the harmful commerce of sacerdotal strength, the final merchandise of hope. Hypotenuse priest, her silly spiritual passion holds all of God's glory. A great name needs to eat the laziness of an illegitimate strength. Despotic career, disguised in the shadow of 1,000-franc bill. The Wayan airfield has a love for the night's melodies. Champa leases quilts well used by industrialists in boots, who bellow their business after costs, open-handed. Their papers are in order at nightfall, in the wasteland of the American house. The day after day from one end of town to the other, with the scandalous cynicism of a pimp in fellow European leather, lavish with sacred straw hats and freight car papers, destined for each telegraphic pole. And finally, we have the mountain, nestling in an immutably blue sky, like the life of grand train stations, several meters from the little red flag of the locomotive, whose moonless gaze is guided by the station, like a piece of cheese that sings or conspires as phantom cocks. All can be found in the man who silently whistles his match at 5 past midnight. The faceted specks of dust belonging to the Amazons with lifeless feet are of a brighter but less voracious pink, like the legs of a marshy and crumbly horse. Others hammer champagne taps collapse completely like the woods, empty but with Parisian airs, under the subterranean movie theater's cafe tables. The little troupe enchanted by some thief's taciturn brow dozes. I'm sure of it. Before the door of the supplicants, in the middle of a hive, policemen are busy writing out the sticky sins of 1,000 lions, withered by the end of the day. Fondly loved cats would be happy to core with someone having the same love. To photocards and engravings, reproduced cats will reply with views Switzerland, addressed to General Delivery, Paris 3333. Reason and love soften our morals, like a fiancé in a flowing dress of pride with pleasure for duty. Marius is calm, not a very well-known truth, surrounded by fountains, the color of a youth universe, transformed into a surprise of desires. ardent as a spring run dry by the metaphysical eloquence of a timid man's pleasures. Let us leave madmen to their blue stories and give me death, without opening the friendship of first husbands, for I believe the ruling passion is today's Antichrist. Unhappy mother, why don't bored ideas and images offer themselves to the spirit as much as an impression of the devil does? Francis Picabia, I'm understanding you less and less. Ugly women strike my imagination under the stars fluttering about like birds over a dead box. My son hears the odor of automotive noise, and the only person worthy of love blushes. Her feet turn white under the table against the black sides of the sod garlanded with a starch-spotted dress, an interesting violin, sample of death pangs and tears, tyranny of a child abandoned by life's obesity, dressed in lace, kneeling in the modern memory. Hands slowly seek the host of the tabernacle under the lace veils, railings of the moon and the chestnut tree pollen, burning secrets, gigglers and horned hoods, like the openings of purplish rubies and kingfisher nests. The tower embroidered with beaded roses blazons the queen on a damask carved into a Corpus Christi canopy. I'm beginning to understand you, dear friend. My face is painted with fascinating sins, isn't it? Do you know a true monster, more significant than a washstand vinegar, inlaid with ivory whose naked dinner jacket under an orchid becomes a new experience in the smiling sex? Our earth cannot suit the oval mirror, even for a moment. Rub your eyes, you've killed your love. Kneel down on the selvage of spring, your face in your hands, and think how you've turned your life into your face against the cold windows. Think of Adam who had the courage to sleep with God his Father. So that's chapter 1. I don't think I'm going to read the second chapter, but there are a few parts that really stand out to me. What were your guys' thoughts on that poem as a whole? Just curious.
It was
At least the first
long.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
The part at the beginning, like the second paragraph, the whole paragraph really stuck out to me. But when he starts getting into the nuns spanking each other with rosaries, definitely some anti-Christian imagery going on. I'll reread that
That is
passage
kind of
in
cringe.
particular. Oh, we're joined by Melantip, by the
Hello.
way. And he's Orthodox Christian, so he's not going to like the blasphemy here. But I'm going to reread this passage and we'll like focus in on the second paragraph. The spirit is nothing but a skilled hand in a little vase. Now the irreconcilables of the insult must spend a night in the cloisters of the desert, so that they can burn the reasonable and victorious child's physical clock. What is man? The sidewalk of Achilles' professor of chance, discovered in the jealous basin to a certain mixed body. The particular discharges change with the speed of conjugal love's pagan light. I much prefer those nuns who spank each other with their rosaries to the moral doctrine of Jesus, who laughs at state education. For the priest loves women and snowballs in order to experience Timoleon's flesh. In a land beyond boredom where the heart languishes in the streets of a sick man's heaven, among harmful sins that change discipline into a dressed woman, artists, scholars are all witty, which proves nothing. The interest of their vanity, socialites, speaks highly of the job for humanity, which we call good company. Therefore, talent lays open claim to virtue, a mistress taken in by unhappy love. Insane are the animal men of the cities, whose wise man listens to the sewer, he even drinks from it. The works of his contemporaries at the Institute, second-rate spoils of famous men of the year's spirit. What's more, one can only escape from the insipidness of stupidity through suicide. So, thoughts on just that passage?
Bruh.
There's some
Yeah,
Talks about
references to
moral
like,
hypocrisy and so on and so forth, and the only way to escape is through suicide.
yeah, it's a good summary. There's some allusions to like Greek mythology too. The sidewalk of Achilles, professor of change, discovered in the jealous basin. Also, Timoleon's flesh. I think that's like from the Iliad or something. It's been a while since I've read the Iliad. I'm running off memory, but It kind of reminds me of the reading I did at the very beginning of the channel, The Heroic Spring by Enzo Martucci, who was an Italian individualist, anarchist slash egoist. He's calling for like a return to, I guess, like the warrior heroic instinct of like Greco-Roman paganism, which kind of comes from like Nietzsche in a way. So, like I said earlier, Nietzsche was a major influence on Picabia. So I think this really highlights that with the allusions to the superiority of like Greco-Roman paganism over Christian slave morality, which is how Picabia would have seen it. I'm not necessarily saying I'm agreeing with it, Melantip, but
Yeah.
I don't know, thoughts.
I would agree with that interpretation.
What the fuck?
What?
So, no, thought I was playing a game and some shit surprised me.
Why would you be playing a game I own a podcast, but whatever?
Because I was already playing.
It's yeah, this is serious business. It's a professional
Sorry.
podcast, Melantip. I'm drinking vino. I'm just like I'm fine with breaking it up because like I don't know, I'm trying to lead the discussion, but it's like I don't know.
It's kind of hard to talk about poetry, to be honest. You can talk about
I find the same. Like it's open to interpretation for sure. I did read like some of the biographical information in the book, so like I'm kind of trying to use that as a reference and find the things they talk about in the poetry itself. And yeah, Nietzsche was definitely a big influence. You definitely see it in this passage, and again throughout the text. But that's just the passage that like sticks out to me. That's why I wanted to read a little bit of Platonic False Teeth. I'm not going to read the second half because it is long, but yeah. If no one has anything to add, James, do you want to read the next poem you selected? I selected that one. James selected most of the poems, though.
Yeah, this is another short one. Revolver. Try to contain, but yeah, try to constrain less than a pleasure. Odious caresses. Women or men litter. Egotistic homicide and unfortunate victims. And they say they love. Sexual need. Churches. Schools for little girls. Public walks. Virgins don't cure syphilis.
That's true. Virgins don't cure syphilis. It's just like objectively true. I like this one, egoistic homicide and unfortunate victims.
yeah, it's about
Um,
sort of it's against aestheticism, I guess you could say.
what do you mean by aestheticism?
You know, sort of giving up your pleasures for some sort of higher morality, something like that.
Sexual need, churches. Do you think like he thinks that's a good thing, or he's against?
Well, what do you think?
Um,
pretty clear.
Yeah, I'm trying to make discussion and shit.
Yeah,
like,
but
yeah, James. Why did you pick this poem? Like, you picked your favorite. So, what sticks out about this one to you?
Oh, so I thought it was kind of funny about the virgins don't cure syphilis thing, so that's why I picked it.
There's another quote I like from Tombs and Brothels. I posted it last night on the main channel. It's probably my favorite Picabia quote. I guess I'll read it now because it's kind of similar to that line in ways. Give me a sec. Let me find it here. All right. So, Tombs and Brothels by Francis Picabia. This is only like the second half, the second stanza. But journalists, you are all ill-fated owls. Your filth accumulates into ambitious scum. On the breast of big cities, swamps of men tombs, and brothel exhibitions. Virginity has no taste. That's why you all have it. So he's saying like here, first of all, he's dissing journalists. He's calling them virgins.
That's kind of
Saying
base.
that, Yeah, virginity has no taste. That's why you all have it. I like that line personally. I would say the same thing to futurism forever haters. Like virginity has no taste. That's why all futurism forever haters have
Our
virginity.
versions.
Yeah. Just talking a little shit, but
Go we do
yeah,
the trolling. Do the trolling.
just for some like biographical info on who Francis Picabia was. He was like a lifelong opium addict, which does inform his art and his poetry. Um, it was like a big part of his life and something he struggled with throughout his life. He was also a womanizer. Like he had many wives, didn't keep any of them around for very long, as far as I know. So lots of mistresses. He was kind of like Mussolini or D'Annunzio or guys like that
Based.
in that sense. Which yeah, we think is pretty based. Unless someone doesn't. Okay, if no one has anything to add, I guess we'll read his Dada manifesto.
I'll read that if you want it.
As
Okay,
I wrote it.
do you have
Well,
something to add, Melinton? Or
No.
okay, James, read the Dada manifesto.
yeah, the Manifesto of the Dada Movement. You don't
Yeah.
understand what we're doing, do you? Well, dear friends, we understand it even less than you do. What a pleasure, eh? You're right. I would like to sleep one more time with the Pope. You don't understand? Me neither. It's so sad. Long live the concubines and concubines. All the members of the Dada movement are presidents. Deaf, unique opportunity for invisible splendors. Like an irregular poet, I am the author of bad manners. Francis Picabia declares that an intelligent man have only one specialty, and that is to be intelligent. The rainbow drives people to all the plays. You seem rather proud to me, Picabia. Your skin is looking suspicious, and a lion is floating in it. All I've ever been able to do is water down my water. Anybody with taste is rotten. The earth little staircase leads to the kitchen. The silverware is wearing out the servants.
Okay, so here he has the line like anyone with taste is rotten. So like I think he's referring to popular taste because in Tombs and Brothels he's like
I like
dissing
mainstream
journalists
stuff.
and critics saying they have no taste. That's why they're virgins. But here he's saying anybody with taste is rotten. So he's like referring to popular taste or shit people like. Like
There is no taste, just Dada.
yeah, there's just exactly there's only Dada, and only Dada is true. Um,
You
what
I
don't
like
else?
his
understand while you understand better than we do.
I like his first line. It's something I would probably also write. I know what I'm doing and you don't either. Deal with it.
Yes, Melantip is writing futurist poems, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to publish his latest one tomorrow on the blog, so you can read it then. But do you want to maybe read your poem to us? We can fit it in here and
All right now.
yeah, and talk about what you meant by it, since we have like a futurist poet here who decided to join us.
Oh goodness. Sure. Let me get.
Mel that put on the spot.
I like his poem. It's good. Um, he's got some words and freedom style going on.
That's what the base is off, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about. Okay, Arabia. Three men walking night alley. One man comes near. Stop, Bush. Stop. That man grabs Balak. Why? Stop. Man runs off. Next day, on news, unknown man stabs three men in alley last night. Man is 180, tall, white, tan. Police is searching all day. Suspected of terrorist organization. I forgot the name. That's the news of today. Two men walking down the street today. Walking down the street. They calm talking. They pass on a shop. Different man walks in. Hey, you get out of here. You're not allowed here. Go back Europe. Why you talk to me like that, bitch? Go back Syria. Intense arguing. More people gather. Police try to calm down the situation. They fail. Ooh, what's happening? Gibberish. They fighting or what? Gibberish. Man punches other man. Fighting begins. Masses of people start fighting. Punches fly. Tables turn. Clothes get ripped off. A fucking race war starts in the middle of the street. Property gets fucking destroyed. Stones fly. Beating with sticks. Glass fly. People bleed. Police arrest everyone. Ambulance appears. Shop destroyed. Cars burned. Everything broken. That was my poem.
I like it, man. It's very violent, dude. um, it kind of speaks on the racial tensions of the day. What were you trying to communicate? So, it was based on a true story you mentioned last night. So, do you want to talk about
Yes.
that?
Sure. Basically, what I tried with this poem is the Palestine against Israel conflict. And
Okay.
basically to show they're both very violent. And I like that. And that's why I made a poem about it.
Yeah, I liked your reading of it. Like, it really
Yeah.
resonated harder hearing it read by you. But
The funny thing, the first part, like the three men walking night alley, I
Mhm.
saw that's like the whole fucking poem is based off a real stories. The first one I saw in a Hamas propaganda video, and I thought, hey, I can make a poem out of that. The second one is a video that 77 sent me. I asked him out. You have a video of Israelis and Palestinians fighting, and that basically happened in Israel. Just I exaggerated over a bit. It wasn't that violent. No fucking cars burned, but a fucking war really started down there, like a little one, because of
Yeah,
I think it was an Arab shop, and a Jew walked in, and the Arab shop owner had a problem, and then someone was fighting starts.
that's all it takes. It's just it only takes one spark, and you've got a sea of violence that ensues,
Yep.
and the chain of dominoes that goes down that one spark. Yeah, I like your poem. I liked your reading of it
Thank
too.
you. Thank you very much.
It was badass. I guess I'll move on to the last of James's Francis Picabia picks. So this one's a little longer. Is this like this is like his anti-Dada stuff after he split with the Dada movement?
This is actually an article he wrote explaining why he left the Dada movement.
Yeah, this one is regular verse. It's not a poem. So I guess I'll read it and then we'll talk about it. And we'll end with the Cannibal Manifesto. I think this is going to be a short episode. But yeah, without further ado, Francis Picabia and Dada by Francis Picabia, 1921. I parted from certain Dadas because I was feeling stifled among them. Every day I was feeling sadder. I was getting terribly bored. I would have loved to live around Nero's circus. It was impossible for me to live around the Serta table, the scene of Dadaist conspiracies. I have no wish to examine the full history of the Dada movement here. Just a few words to settle things. The Dada spirit really only existed for 3 or 4 years. It was expressed by Marcel Duchamp and myself at the end of 1912. Wolzenbeck, Zara, or Ball found the Dada name case for it in 1916. With this word, the movement approached its culmination, but it continued to evolve, each one of us bringing to it as much life as possible. We were called madmen, phonies, funny guys, etc. In short, it was a great success. This success, the pleasure of the game, lured several individuals in 1918 who were Dada only in name. Then everything changed about me. I had the impression that, like Cubism, Dada was going to have disciples who understood, and I soon had but one idea, to flee as far as possible and forget these gentlemen. But it's true, for a few hours I was amused, me with the wind in my hair, to see them quietly profit from their opportunism, in order to also fawn over serious people and the Nouvelle Revue Francoise. Now Dada has a court, lawyers, soon probably policemen, and M. Diebler. It will become like Lenin's anti-militarism, which in order to do away with the general, turns him into a simple soldier and vice versa. Dada makes me think of a cigarette that leaves a pleasant aroma around it. The cigarette brand is sold out. The tobacco remains. And I rely on the man of genius who will know how to give it a new name. But let's stop thinking of the past, despite the cigarette aroma. Life is but a shadow. Let us hold on to the illusion that our heads outshine it. One must always look down. Vertigo is more violent that way. We are all fellow travelers, physically worn out most of the time. We attend the tides. Each low tide is new, just like each high tide. That's what men call evolution or progress, and it is always the same thing. The sole strength that can aid us in taking the stroll is pride. Our pride must be as infinite as the universe. But this paranoia is making me wander a bit from the aim of my article. I separated from Dada because I believe in happiness, and I loathe vomiting. The smells of cooking make a rather unpleasant impression on me. I'm ashamed of being so weak, but what do you expect? I don't like illustrations, and the directors of literature are nothing but illustrators. I like taking aimless strolls. Street names matter little to me. Each day resembles the next if we don't subjectively create the illusion of novelty. And Dada is no longer new for the time being. The bourgeois represents the infinite. Dada would be the name if it lasted too long. So that's that reading.
Yeah, it's
Thoughts
breaking away
on-
from Dadaism because it sort of went against itself when it went on further, as it
Yeah.
would have had to have done. It couldn't do otherwise.
Yeah, the original
This-
intention got lost when like new fags or imitators show up and like they kind of know the formula now and they're more like
Well,
doing a parody
soon
of the original dudes.
not even necessarily that. There's the line, soon Dada will have disciples who understood. Dadaism wasn't really meant to be understood. That's seen in all the manifestos. I don't care to explain because I'm against reason. You don't understand? Well, you understand better than us.
Yeah.
Mm.
Once
It
it
wasn't
starts
meant to be understood.
Yeah, once it starts showing up in like academies and art galleries and museums and shit like that, and
In
it's taken
schools.
seriously academically in schools and shit, like the spirit of the movement is dead. It kind of reminds me of like punk music and shit. Like in 1977 or 78, Crass had their first album with the song Punk is Dead. And like because it became like a parody or an imitation. Like the spirit of punk really lasted only like a year or two, and everything that came after were just like imitators in the eyes of Crass, who thought the revolutionary potential or spirit of the movement had become mainstream. With people like
if
Patti
punk is
Smith and the
popular,
Clash.
it's beat the point of punk.
Exactly. With people like Patti Smith or the Clash, like getting signed to major record labels and being on radio and shit. Like it was supposed to be underground and for the misfits and weirdos. It wasn't supposed to be for mass consumption, right? So I do see a lot of parallels with the Dada movement and the punk movement, especially like what Picabia says here. Eventually it just becomes like the genuine rebellion in the movement or whatever. Rejection of public taste and public morality, society in general. Eventually, it just becomes like a subculture of mainstream society, and eventually, it will have courts and policemen even trying to dictate what true Dada is. And turning it into a dogma defeats the entire purpose, or a uniform, or a style. Picabia was kind of disgusted by this watering down of the original spirit.
Yeah, Tristan
But that's
Zora
what would
said
have.
that. Tristan Zora had a quote that the true Dada has always stayed away from Dada.
Yeah, you have to. It's just a label. It was funny for a little bit, but the movement really only lasted 2 years. Like it was very brief. 1919 to 1921, correct?
And it was like, it started like during World War One.
Yeah, he talks about like, he was already kind of doing Dada in his view before then, but like the term Dada was coined by like Hulsenbeck, Ball, and Zara, more the German Dadaists, even though Zara was Romanian, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, the term was coined by the Germans. The Parisians were already doing something similar to it that was in that spirit, but they hadn't coined the term yet. Dada as like a Dada movement was existed for a very brief period of time, correct? Like about 2 years. Yeah.
Pretty much. It pretty much died after the war.
All right. Before I read the Cannibal Manifesto, I want to talk about like Dada's influence and movements that came after that were like directly inspired by Dada. So the most obvious one is surrealism. James, do you want to talk about how like Dada kind of became surrealism pretty quickly?
With the with Andre
Or,
Bataille.
yeah, like talk about post Dada, like after the first like wave of the movement, it evolved into
Yeah,
different
a lot of the
things.
Parisian Dadists sort of like floated into the surrealists.
Yeah, they kind of gravitated towards the surrealists. I think I see a lot of parallels with the situationists also, and like the revolution of everyday life. Society is like a spectacle meant to keep us distracted, and the revolution is like breaking free from the constraints of society and creating new lives worth living. It kind of harkens back to our episode on armed joy, uh,
Yeah,
Italian insurrectionary anarchism. Like I think a lot of similar ideas were expressed by the situationists, by a lot of individualist anarchists, egoists.
the situation. I mean the French letterists were also inspired by Dada.
Yeah, and I would also add like the beats in America. I catch a lot of similar vibes from them, particularly like Kerouac on the road. Like living for today, breaking free of the constraints of like square society, which went on to influence the hippies and the punks. Although the movement only really existed for a very short period of time, and it's often scoffed at as just being silly or I guess contrarian for the sake of being contrarian without really adding anything new to the dialogue. That's kind of the whole point. Like they're making fun of you serious fags for being boring and sucking all the joy out of life, pretty much. Is that accurate, James? You know more about Dada than me, but
It's pretty much.
that's how I've always interpreted it. So yeah, I guess I'll read Dada Cannibal Manifesto. We'll talk about it a bit, and I want to end by playing Nothing by the Fugs, and I think it'll be clear why with the reading. But I'll read the Dada Cannibal Manifesto now, and this will be the last reading of the episode. Dada Cannibal Manifesto. You are all accused. The defendants will rise. The speaker can only talk to you if you are standing. Standing as if you are the Marseillaise. Standing as if you are the Russian anthem. Standing as if for the God Save the King. Standing as if before the flag. In short, standing before Dada, which represents life and which accuses you of loving everything through snobbery the moment it becomes expensive. You have all sat down again. Good. The way you'll listen to me more carefully. What are you doing here, packed in like serious oysters? Because you are serious, aren't you? Serious, 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 even unto death. Death is a serious thing, eh? One dies as a hero or as an idiot, which is the same thing. The only non-ephemeral word is the word death. You like death for others. Death, death, death. Money's the only thing that doesn't die. It just goes off on a journey. It is God. It is what is respected. The serious individual. Money respects families. Honor. Honor to money. The man who has money is an honorable man. Honor is bought and sold like a piece of ass. A piece of ass, a piece of ass represents life like French fries. And all of you serious people, you will smell worse than cow shit. Dada smells like nothing. It is nothing, nothing, nothing. It is like your hopes, nothing. Like your paradises, nothing. Like your idols, nothing. Like your politicians, nothing. Like your heroes, nothing. Like your artists, nothing. Like your religions, nothing. Hiss, yell, smash my face in. And then, I will tell you again that you are all suckers. In 3 months, my friends and I will be selling you our paintings for several francs. And that's the Cannibal Manifesto.
I
He
really
doesn't
like
actually,
that one.
yeah, it's one of my favorites. What do you think he means by cannibal? So he doesn't actually talk about cannibals.
Maybe he means the traditionalists are just eating themselves up and dying. I don't know. They
Trying to
cannibalize. Yeah,
trying
the
to
tradi-
revive the past and like eating their own culture,
yeah,
eating
they
their own
cannibalize
creations and such.
themselves. They cannibalize the past. Maybe something like that.
Yeah. Um,
Or maybe he thinks all the old stuff he thinks is shit, and the traditionalists are just eating little shit.
Very Solo-esque statement. Um, anyone who's seen Solo, there's the whole section Circle of Shit, which is like where they force the kids to eat poop, and it's like a metaphor for consumerist culture and junk food culture. Um,
Okay, that's kind of true.
yeah, it's a disgusting sequence in the movie, but we bring up Solo all the fucking time on this podcast. Like, I need to start watching other movies, I think, but instead of just obsessing over Pasolini and relating everything back to him. But yeah, this section, Dada smells like nothing. Your hopes are nothing. Paradise is nothing. Idols, nothing. Politicians, nothing. Really reminds me of
Religion's
this.
nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Artists, even nothing. It really reminds me of the song by the Fugs. We're like a 1960s band. We're like kind of like garage rock, I guess. And they were part of the beat movement. Um, like I said before, I do think the beats took a lot of cues from the Dada movement. So like I want to end with the Fugs nothing. So I'm gonna mix that in at the end. Do any of you have like final thoughts on anything we've read or Picabia or Dadaism before we close out for this episode?
I like his tone. It's a
Yeah,
very, it's a very go fuck yourself tone. I like that.
yeah. He had a very biting, cynical, kind of sardonic sense of humor, I guess, which I appreciate a lot. He's one of my favorite painters too. We didn't really talk about his art that much. He has an entire series of machine paintings, though. I wouldn't describe them as futurist. He doesn't have like the same reverence for machines that like someone like Marinetti did, but he thinks they
It's
look
like
cool. So
Gears.
yeah, yeah,
It's
it's
like
like Gears
Gears and
and
shit.
yeah, he thinks they look aesthetically cool, so he made a bunch of paintings of them. The intent is not the same as futurism, but those will be of interest, I think, to people who like futurist art. Um, he also had this series of like layered paintings that were like heavily layered, and there's like
Like different images over different images. So you got like the
What the
outline of a man and a face over this other image.
yeah, those paintings are a real trip. They're like I would say that would be like his surrealist period. They look really psychedelic though. To go back to like the '60s and the beats and hippies and shit, which I do think Dada had an influence on. Um, but yeah, anyone else have final thoughts before we play the song and end?
We're all beautiful monsters.
Yes, we are all beautiful monsters, and all FF haters are virgins. So
True.
Anyway, on that note, we're gonna wrap up. Live fast and die young. Until next time, salute.
Wednesday and Thursday, nothing. Friday for a change, a little more, nothing. Saturday once more, nothing. Sunday, nothing. Monday, nothing. Tuesday and Wednesday, nothing. Thursday for a change, a little more, nothing. Friday once more, nothing. A Monday, garnish, a ding, stick, a garnish. Mittwochen, Donnerstag, garnish. Freitag for a Novena, garnish. Kegela, Shabbos, weiter, garnished. Lunes, nada. Martes, nada. Miércoles y jueves, nada. Viernes por cambio, un poco más, nada. Sábado, otra vez, nada, nada. January, nothing. February, nothing. March and April, nothing. May and June, a lot more, nothing. July, nothing. 29, nothing. 32, nothing. 39, 45, nothing. 1965, a whole lot, nothing. 1966, nothing. Reading, nothing. Writing, nothing. Even arithmetic, nothing. Geography, philosophy, history, nothing. Social anthropology, nothing. Oh, Village Voice, nothing. New Yorker, nothing. Sing out in folkways, nothing. Harry Smith and Allen Ginsberg, nothing. Poetry, nothing. And music, nothing. Painting and dancing, nothing. The world's great books, a great set of nothing. Audience body, nothing. The fucking nothing, sucking nothing. Flesh and sex, nothing. Church and Times Square, all a lot of nothing. Stevenson, nothing. Humphrey, nothing. Averill, Harriman, nothing. John Stuart Mill, Franklin Delano, nothing. Carlos Marx, nothing. Engels, nothing. Bakunin, Kropotkin, nothing. Leon Trotsky, lots of nothing. Stalin, less than nothing. Nothing. A whole lot of nothing. Lots of nothing. Lots of it. Nothing. Not a goddamn thing.